Rachel returned to her office after the raid on the antique store, feeling both satisfied and drained. She had finally solved the case and put an end to the robberies, but it had taken a toll on her. She sank into her chair and closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. As she opened her eyes, she saw a file on her desk. It was labeled, "Cold Case, the Vanished Heirloom." Rachel frowned, wondering why her boss had given her a cold case when she had just solved a major one. She opened the file and began to read. The Vanished Heirloom was a case that had gone cold 10 years ago. A wealthy family had reported a theft from their mansion where a rare and valuable heirloom had gone missing. The case had been investigated by another detective, but no leads had been found. Rachel wondered why her boss had assigned her the case now, after all these years. She decided to visit the family and see if she could find any new leads. She drove to the mansion and was greeted by the family's butler, who led her to the drawing room. The family's matriarch, Mrs. Hastings, was seated on a plush sofa, surrounded by antique furniture. "Detective Taylor, it's a pleasure to meet you," Mrs. Hastings said, gesturing for Rachel to take a seat. "I'm afraid I don't know why you've been assigned to this case after so many years, but I'm willing to cooperate." Rachel thanked her and began to ask questions. She learned that the heirloom had been a diamond necklace that had been passed down through the family for generations. It had been stolen one night while the family was hosting a dinner party. No one had seen anything, and the necklace had never been recovered. Rachel asked to see the scene of the crime and was led to the room where the necklace had been kept. She saw the empty jewelry box and the shattered glass case that had once held the necklace. She noticed something on the floor and bent down to pick it up. It was a small piece of paper with a phone number written on it. Rachel took the paper and called the number. It belonged to a pawn shop across town. She drove to the pawn shop and showed the paper to the owner, a gruff man named Jack. Jack looked at the paper and frowned. "I remember this number," he said, scratching his chin. "Someone called me from this number a few years ago, asking if I was interested in buying a diamond necklace. I told them I don't buy stolen goods, and that was that." Rachel asked if he had any other information, but Jack shook his head. He had never seen the necklace or the person who had called. Rachel left the pawn shop, feeling frustrated but not defeated. She decided to visit the last known owner of the necklace, a wealthy socialite named Veronica. She drove to Veronica's mansion and was greeted by her butler. Veronica was surprised to see Rachel, but invited her in for tea. Rachel asked Veronica if she had any information about the necklace or its whereabouts. Veronica sighed and looked down at her teacup. "I'm afraid I sold the necklace a few years ago," she said, avoiding Rachel's gaze. "I was going through some financial troubles and I needed the money. I didn't know it was stolen at the time." Rachel asked who she had sold it to, but Veronica shrugged. "I don't remember the name," she said. "It was just some random person who answered my ad in the paper." Rachel left the mansion feeling frustrated but determined. She knew she had to keep searching for the necklace, even if it meant going back 10 years. She visited the pawn shop again and asked Jack if he had any other leads. Jack shook his head, but then remembered something. "Wait a minute," he said. "There was a guy who used to come in here a few years ago. He was always looking for diamonds and rare gems. He never had anything to sell, but he was always asking questions." Rachel asked Jack for a description of the man, and he gave her a vague one. Rachel knew it wasn't much to go on, but it was better than nothing. She thanked Jack and left the pawn shop, determined to find this mysterious man. She spent the next few days visiting jewelry stores, asking if they had seen anyone matching the man's description. Most of the store owners shrugged and said they saw a lot of customers, but one store owner, a woman named Maria, remembered a man who had come in a few years ago. "He was looking for diamonds, just like you said," Maria said. "He was asking a lot of questions about where the diamonds came from and how much they were worth. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now that you mention it, it does seem suspicious." Rachel asked if Maria had any information about the man, but she didn't. Rachel left the store feeling frustrated again. She knew she was running out of leads. But then, as she was driving back to her office, something caught her eye. It was a jewelry store with a sign that read, "We buy diamonds." Rachel parked her car and walked into the store. Inside, she saw a man sitting behind a counter, examining a diamond through a jeweler's loop. The man looked up and saw Rachel. He didn't seem surprised to see a detective in his store. "Can I help you?" he asked. Rachel showed him a picture of the missing necklace and asked if he had ever seen it before. The man looked at the picture and shook his head. "No, I haven't," he said. "But I do remember a guy who came in here a few years ago looking to sell some diamonds. He didn't have any identification, so I didn't buy anything from him. But I remember he had a tattoo on his wrist, a snake wrapped around a dagger." Rachel thanked the man and left the store. She knew she had a new lead. She called a sketch artist and described the tattoo to him. He was able to create a sketch of the man, and Rachel released it to the media. Within a few days, Rachel received a call from a woman who recognized the man in the sketch. She said his name was Marcus and that he used to work as a security guard for the Hastings family, the same family that had reported the stolen necklace 10 years ago. Rachel tracked down Marcus and brought him in for questioning. He denied knowing anything about the necklace, but Rachel was able to find evidence linking him to the theft. He eventually confessed and led Rachel to where he had hidden the necklace. Rachel returned the necklace to the Hastings family, who were overjoyed to have it back. They thanked Rachel and praised her for her tenacity in solving the case. Rachel felt satisfied and relieved. She had finally put an end to a 10-year-old cold case.